Welcome to TBISE, the best in sports entertainment. We're going to talk about some boxing today. I got my guy who always comes through and gives his honest opinion about boxing. So we're going to talk about a few things today. What's up, G? How you feeling, man?
I'm good. How you feel?
I got my man G here. It's fine. He always does the show. He always comes on the show and always shows support. So, normally we do interviews through the podcast, but now we have something where as though we have real live sports going on here at TBISE. So, G, we had some boxing this week. We had a few good fights this past weekend, I should say, where we had Keyshawn Davis fought Abdullah Mason, a few other fighters. Then also we had the main event, the fight here in Philadelphia with Jerron Boots Ennis. He fought this week. So I'll start there with Keyshawn versus Loma. So what was your thought on that fight?
Keyshawn just basically made a big statement at the 135-pound division. Put everybody on notice to let them know he's not playing. The reason I say that is because Lemo's last fight before was against one of the best 140-pounders in the world, being Richardson Hitchens. So for him to come down to 135, not even make the weight, come in at 141, Keyshawn still accepts the challenge, takes the fight. He weighed in at 134 pounds, so he came under the limit, as a professional should. Takes the fight, makes quick work out of him. You know what I mean? It's like, what's next? You know what I mean? When you do something like that, and what everybody see is supposed to be a competitive fight, a big fight, and you make a statement like that, I mean, it's only up from there.
Yeah. So after the fight, he's been calling out Gervonta Tank Davis, saying that hey, that's the fight he wants next. Keyshawn has 11, 12 pro fights now. Do you think he's ready for that type of a fight right now with the current fights that he has? I
mean, the left side of my brain is saying take your time. The right side of my brain is saying if you're going to be King Kong, there's only one way to prove it. You know what I mean? People like to make comparisons about the record because Keyshawn has the lesser fights. But Keyshawn is the guy who has the most experience as an amateur. He's fought on the world level as an amateur. And, he's a silver medalist. That's a great accomplishment. Yeah. Tank hasn't been close. But as a professional, Tank has the bigger resume and, more fights, more knockouts, things like that. So people say it's a dangerous fight. It's a dangerous fight every time you get in there. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I think it's just one of those things. If Keyshawn wants to be the best and he knows this is the guy he has to beat to be the best, considered at 135 pounds, I say let him go ahead and rumble. Yeah. This is what's missing from the game. We've seen a lot of tit for tat, name calling, and we've seen a lot of playing around, but we're not seeing the fights we need to see. So I think this would start something good.
Now, on the flip side, you got Gervonta Tank Davis, who just KO'd Frank Martin. Frank Martin had similar amount of fights as Keyshawn Davis has. What they did with after Tank knocked out Frank Martin, they said that Tank was cherry picking, fighting people that didn't have the experience that he has. Right. So do you think it would be the same thing if he was to fight Keyshawn and get the knockout and win that fight?
Honestly, I wouldn't think it would be the same, is because Keyshawn is a lot more confident than Frank Martin. He's a lot more experienced. When Tank was letting Frank Martin know that he wasn't ready and he was saying to him, you don't know enough, he was being honest about that. But the reason it mattered is because Frank Martin as an amateur, probably maybe 50, 60 fights. Keyshawn as an amateur, 100 plus fights, and an Olympian. You know what I mean? So that's a different caliber of guy. The confidence level is way different. You know what I mean? So Keyshawn would go in there and not be scared and not be afraid and, shoot his shots with confidence. So that's what would make it a lot better fight.
Now, also with Keyshawn on the other side, if he was to win that fight Tank and win that fight, come out victorious, what would that do for his career?
I mean, he's best in the world at 135. You got to be fair. I mean, if anybody else was to beat Tank, that's what they would say. So he the guy now. I don't know if we would call him the face of boxing just yet, but he's the guy.
At 135. Pick up with let's pick up. So if Keyshawn Davis is to come out victorious against Gervonta Tank Davis, if that fight was to happen, what does that do for his career?
I mean, he's automatically declared the number one guy in the world at 135 pounds. And the respect should be there. You know what I mean? That Tank is the guy. So if Keyshawn was to beat him, now he's the guy.
Now, also with that being said, on that card we had Abdullah Mason. He faced a lot of adversity in that fight to come back and get a knockout. What's that say for a young fighter to face that type of adversity, be knocked down twice, and then come back and then KO his opponent?
I mean, it says a lot because what you see usually with the prospects is they in there with a light touch, especially a guy as young as Abdullah Mason. You see him in there with a light touch, and we see the same story every time. You go in there, he work him out a few rounds and end up knocking him out. Now this was a fight where he got knocked down first, and he ended up knocking the guy down, and then he got knocked down again, and then he eventually stopped him in the second round. The reason it was good was because sometimes you want to test your training. And by test your training, I mean, you do all this training and you spar with these great fighters and things like that. Real tough training camps, but you never really get to test it out. You never really get to see what it is, that you worked on or the conditioning. So to take a shot like that in the first round, go down, have to get your mind clear, go back in the ring and finish up. I mean, what more do you want from a young guy?
So for me, watching him, I thought the same thing. I thought like, wow, because I was surprised to see him get hurt, and then it's like he got hurt with the same shot twice, and then to be able to get up and actually he like, it ain't like he was fatigued enough. He came right back and was ready to rumble when the guy's opponent out of there.
Right.
So as far as Abdullah Mason goes, what do you see next for him? What do you what would you like to see him do next?
I mean, Abdullah Mason can honestly keep taking his time. We talking about a 20-year-old guy, you know what I mean, who's really learning on the job and getting better. The truth is, I think he'll be a 147-pounder before we know it. He's still growing. Yeah. And as far as I know, he's not poisoning his body. So I think he'll be a 147-pounder. So for that fact, I think he should just keep fighting on the level he's at, taking his time, keep finding guys that's going to challenge him a little bit. No need to rush to a title. He's still a kid.
Exactly. Now, fast forward a little bit. This past Saturday, a good night of boxing in Philadelphia. We got to see Ray Savage. We got to see Jerron Boots Ennis, Ish the Chef, and a few other fighters fight on Saturday. So I'll just start with Ray Savage. Ray Savage, he had a good fight. Opponent was kind of holding him, didn't get the knockout, but he put on a great performance. Yeah,
I mean, we got to be honest. This is his 130-pound debut. You know what I mean? He never fought at 130 before, so this is his 130-pound debut, and it was up against the top opposition. Not the best in the world, but a guy who's not playing around, a guy who's serious, a guy who was charged up at the weigh-ins. He promised to upset Ray Savage and everything else. So it was a good fight to see Ray, just to see his reaction to the weight class. Looked very strong, looked very sharp. I felt like at times he went for the knockout a little too early. You know what I mean? He tried to get him out. He did end up knocking the guy down twice. But sometimes you got to remember to get back to your jab, go to the body, and just keep punishing the guy. It looked like he was trying to get the job done with one punch, but I can't be mad at him. He felt good and he looked good. He got the win.
Yeah. And now on the flip side, he also, went through, like you said, he's moved up to 130 pounds. First fight at 130, fighting a fighter who, was doing a lot of clinching, a lot of holding, used a lot of tactics in there to kind of throw him off his game. What do you think he can do better going forward? What do you think he can do to try to get, to avoid those traps of people holding him in fights and making it an ugly fight for him?
I mean, just remember that you have a skill set. You do know how to use your jab. You do know how to use your reflexes. Sometimes it is good to take a step back. You don't always have to be going forward the entire night. Remember that you can box, and also bang. Just when to use it, Sometimes these guys get carried away with the power, or maybe they get carried away with the skills and sometimes forget that they have to fight. So, I think if he just pick and choose when to do what, when the guy's trying to grab you, there's a lot of things you can come up with. Just remember that you can do it and apply it. So I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, I think Ray looked good in that fight. I really did. His footwork, his punching power was on point. He seemed like his IQ is there. He fought very well. Now we have the main event. Jerron Boots Ennis goes up against Karen. Jerron put Karen down in that fight. A lot of people were kind of didn't think that Boots had the best performance that night.
Right.
What's your thoughts on Boots and his performance against Karen?
I watched it again last night, actually, and it wasn't as bad as it looked in person. In person, it looked like he struggled a little bit. And on TV, when you watch the fight, you could tell he just was trying to get the guy out of there. You know what I mean? He was just trying to get the job done. Nothing wrong with that. The first fight, he had some trouble where the guy was moving a lot and everybody said he couldn't cut the ring off. Yeah. This time, it got to him, but the guy brought something different to the table, which is holding. I'm going to hold you a little bit. Yeah. But he fought too. Karen landed some shots versus Boots, but I think that was due to the fact that Boots was like in a one-track mind. I'm just going to get you out. So no matter what you throw, no matter what you try to do, I'm going to keep beating on you. Yeah. I think he did a good job. I think he's been at 147 for a long time. I think it's time for him to go to 54. I'm saying that because there's bigger bodies to go after, and then you would feel, a lot better going up in weight. It's obvious the guys at 147 pounds really don't want any trouble with him, because if they did, we would have saw another champion in there with him that night, but we didn't. So we had to go with the challenger, #1 contender, which was fine. But I think he just needed to stay behind his jab, pace himself. Remember that also, like I said about Ray, that he has a skill set, and use your jab. But sometimes it can't always be perfect when you're trying to get the win.
Yeah, so because people were, I was looking at the comments and things like that, people saying that he took a lot of punishment.
Right.
He got hit with a lot of shots he can't get hit with. He better not fight Crawford fighting that style.
Right.
But I think, in my opinion, I think that Karen came. I don't think Boots expected Karen to fight that night.
Right.
And if he was to go up against somebody like Crawford, the game plan, and I think he would be way more sharper and way more on this stuff as far as avoid the punches.
Right.
Fighting that type of fight. Now, Boots looked good. You know what I'm saying? Because Karen never was dropped before, from my understanding. I don't think he ever was even put down.
Right.
So to see him, put him down, and then also go in there and he tried to close the show, but it's just that he couldn't get the knockout. You're not gonna knock everybody out. I mean, you said that in one of our other interviews that you can't knock everybody out. It's not gonna happen. No,
men are built different. Everybody's built different. You know what I mean? And I think the problem with the world right now, we see some talent and it's like supposed to destroy everybody. Everybody had a bad night. You know what I mean? That's why in basketball they got an 82-game season. Yeah. Because some of those nights you're going to have a bad night. You know what I mean? But his average is nice. You know what I mean? So if you look at Boots overall, his average is nice. Yeah. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, he's going to beat you up.
Exactly. So another thing, people were saying that Boots wasn't listening to his corner and was listening to the game plan that Bowes was trying to get him to do. But sometimes when a fighter is in the midst of the fight, they may see something different or feel different about what's going on in the ring, because you fight yourself, so you understand. Sure. Like sometimes the coach can be telling you something, and then you can see something different while you're in the ring. Yeah. What's your thoughts? What do you do? Is it better to go with how you feel, or listen to what your coach is saying in that time?
I mean, it's tough to say, because you when you're in there, I'm looking at it in first person. This guy's in front of me, and I'm hitting him, he's hitting me, I'm not feeling too much from him. You know what? I'm gonna press him. You know what I mean? But my coach is always looking for the best interest. So what they say is, you stay behind your jab and do this and do that. They're saying that because they're looking at it from an angle where if you make this mistake, he could knock you out. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't care what no coach says, we always think something can happen bad because we train for it not to. You know what I mean? So we always thinking that something can go wrong. So of course we want things to get done cleaner, but that's why you work hard, you practice, you focus, you know what I mean, so that it can come out clean. But it's not always going to be a clean job. Sometimes it got to be an ugly job. That's just the way it is. Of course, every trainer would love for their fighter to listen to him 100%, but that's not likely neither. You know what I mean? Because he's the one who's actually in there. His body is reaching a great temperature. His brain is racing at a speed we won't understand. You know what I mean? And we're asking him to keep control of himself and keep composure and listen and fight all at the same time. That's pretty tough for the average man. So, if I can get close to 65, 70%, I'll take it.
Yeah, because it seemed like, from watching the fight, it seemed like Boots didn't think Karen can hurt him. So that was my opinion. I think he was like, man, I'm going to get you out of here. You can't hurt me. Yeah. But to the fans watching, they seeing him get hit, and they thinking like, oh, man, he not on his game tonight. Yeah. But he just probably felt something in the ring, like, man, this guy can't hurt me, so let me just try and get him out of there.
Yeah, I mean, no disrespect to anyone, but a fan is a regular civilian. They don't fight for a reason. This guy does, you know what I mean? So
Exactly.
they see it and it's like, ooh, you know what I mean? But this is his job. This is what he's prepared to do. That's why he's in the shape he's in. And maybe he did feel like the guy couldn't hurt him. You know what I mean? That might be the reason why he was fighting like that. But at the end of the day, I watched the fight. I had it like maybe 10-2, 9-3
Yeah, me too.
for Boots.
I had 10-2 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned 154 for Boots.
Yeah.
Now, at 154, do we run into the same problem that he's running into now at 147? Do we get those fights?
I think they're going to give him the fights because everybody seems to think he goes up to 54, he averages out in size, meaning he won't be the bigger guy at 47. And he is not the biggest guy at 47, but got good size to him. So I feel like they seem to think that at 154 he'll average out, and there'll be guys who'll be able to overpower him or just bully him. And I honestly think he'll do well
at 154. So if he was to move to 154, what do you think would be an ideal matchup, like an introduction fight to that weight at 154? Or do you jump right in the fire with some of those big time names?
I mean, I said the other night, I think Jose Benavidez is perfect. Jose Benavidez fought Danny Garcia at 154 in his debut at 54. And he also went up to 168 and fought Jamal Charlo. Exactly. So this is a guy who knows the weight class and beyond. And he's sturdy. You know what I mean? He may have a few losses, but nothing real disrespectful on his record.
Yeah.
He's only lost to great fighters. So I think it'll be great.
Yeah, so I would like to see Boots go to 154. But listen, the other thing is, if he goes 154, now he goes 154, and then now those other champions will be saying, hey, Boots ran at 154, he didn't want to fight us. But we all know that those fighters are not taking those fights. I interviewed Boots, he was like, man, nobody want to fight me.
Right.
And that division, the 147, has, some good matches that would have made a lot of sense. But Boots had to move forward and choose Karen to stay active, because he needed to stay active so he didn't strip him and so forth and so on.
Right.
154, we got the champions at 154. Of course, you got Bud Crawford. I think Bud is looking to fight maybe like Canelo or somebody looking for a big payday. Not saying that he doesn't want to fight Boots, but he's trying to cash out. Outside, if he can't get Benavidez, who would you want to see him fight out of the champions at 154?
I mean, any of them. There's a guy named Bakram Murtazaliev who just beat Tim Tszyu.
Yeah.
Knocked him out.
Didn't expect that at all, right?
Yeah, nobody did.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, that would be a great fight, especially for your introduction. A lot of people probably won't think that Boots would take that fight or that would be a right fight for him. I think it's a perfect fight. I think it's a perfect fight because this is a guy that we just seen recently knock out a guy who had a lot of hype behind him, who even had a whole country behind him.
Yeah.
I think if Boots went in there and beat a guy like him, then there's no denying him at 154. But also what happens is the rest of the guys might get like, I don't want to fight this guy.
They got to go through that again.
Right.
Now, outside of, we had the boxing match, but the event.
Yes.
You've seen the event. This is the second time Boots fought here in the city, like on this stage, I should say.
Yes.
These events seem like they just keep getting better and better. This one, I know Boots said it didn't sell out as much as the first event due to the fact that of the opponent possibly kind of hindered the actual ticket sales. But still, even in that, it was still electrifying. The building was still, going crazy. People were there to support Boots.
Yeah.
Does Boots continue to fight here in Philadelphia?
I think so because, I mean, out of all my 38 years, I have never been to boxing events in stadiums that big in my city. I've been to fights, big fights, in New York and Vegas and things like that, but I've never been to a big fight like that in Philadelphia. So to see it happen here, and it's always welcoming. And then the most important part, nobody's getting hurt after these events. Yeah. I think for that alone, we can see Boots back at the Wells Fargo for sure. Yeah,
I would love to see Boots continue to fight here in Philadelphia and bring those big-time fights here. Now, moving on, we do have some other fights that are happening at the end of this year and the beginning of next year. So one of the fights that I think they moved the date to, I believe, January. I'm not sure. I think in between dates, but we have Roach versus Gervonta Tank Davis.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that fight?
I think it's a good fight. The reason I do is because it's two guys who know each other. It's not a guy that we just found. They from the same region. They fought twice before in the amateurs. Tank getting the better of those fights, but still it was competitive. Lamont actually looked like the stronger guy in the amateurs, things like that. And he's a current champion. People try to sleep on Lamont. Lamont can fight. At the end of the day, he can fight. But what's going on now in this world, everybody has to be famous. You know what I mean? Everybody got to be famous. Everybody got to be known for something, even if it's not boxing. Yeah. So I think that's taken away from it a little bit. But I like Lamont Roach. Lamont Roach is very sturdy. He doesn't do one thing well. He's good at everything. But he's good at everything, at a level. It's not like, oh, I'm a 10 hair, 10 hair, 10 hair. It's like I'm an 8 hair, 7, 9, 10 again. You know what I mean? He pretty good defense. You're not gonna hit him with every shot. He will hit you back. He will fight you. He will box you. He'll do what he have to do to get the win. That's why I like the fight.
So, what would Lamont have to do? What, in your opinion? I mean, what would he have to do to actually win this fight? What would be the game plan if you was training him? What would be his game plan against Tank?
I mean, to be honest, if it was me and I was coaching Lamont, it would be go get him and smother him. Don't let Tank load up one of those power shots. Don't even let him start getting comfortable where he could load up the power shots. The reason I'm saying smother him is so that he don't get enough range and recoil on the shot where he could hurt you. You feel what I'm saying? Just stay close to him. Don't let him breathe. You know what I mean? I know that might sound dumb to a lot of people, but if you really think about the physics of it, like they both around the same height, you know what I mean? So you can't really say outbox them and stay on the outside. I don't think that really would make too much sense, only because you will get caught on the end of a shot with Tank, and I think that's the worst spot to get caught in with Tank, to get caught on the end of the shot. At the same time, if you give him enough range, he'll load up. You don't want him to load up, so I'll get close enough to him where it'll just be an ugly fight. We'll be clinching and things like that. You know what I mean? You just got to make it an ugly fight in that case.
Now, Tank Davis, I'm assuming Tank has to be Tank in that fight.
Right.
Tank has the skill level, IQ. He's been at this level for a while. I just think that it's just Lamont's opportunity. He has to take advantage of the opportunity that's in front of him, because Tank is proven. Tank has been at this level. Tank's been knocking everybody out. So shout out to them guys, man. We'll see what happens. Now we do have Benavidez, Morrell happening as well. Benavidez has been on a tear, beating everybody as well. Except he didn't like his last fight with the distance, but he moved up to 175. Yeah. Now he's fighting Morrell. What's your thoughts on that fight?
I mean, off of the names, great fight. The matchup, great fight. Benavidez is one of my favorite out of the big men, but I honestly think he's too much for Morrell. Morrell hasn't seen a storm like this. You know what I mean? He doesn't even like when you don't let him do the things he want to do. When you don't let him establish his jab, when you don't let him trick you out your spot and he counter you and knock you out, and he don't like those things. Benavidez is total opposite of what he's been facing. He's been facing some guys with good records, but they can't keep up. Yeah. So I feel like if you put Benavidez in there with him, Benavidez will eventually stop him like around the 8th, 9th round.
Now, do you think Benavidez is going to get the credit because Morrell was calling for this fight, but Morrell only has like 11 fights, I believe, like 11 fights or so. Yeah. So he's stepping up to fight Benavidez, calling Benavidez out. Benavidez is saying, hey, look, all right, I'll fight you. Right. All right. Do you think they'll give Benavidez the credit if he wins this fight against Morrell?
I mean, they would have to give him credit because it's a lot of hype behind Morrell. It's a lot of people who support Morrell. It's a lot of people who talk highly of him, so they have to give him the credit. The only thing is they both being at 175 now, I don't think they're at their complete best. I think they still had some work to do at 68, but it is what it is. They both at 75. They both fighting. I appreciate that. I really do. So, yeah, he'll get a lot of credit for that fight.
So what's your prediction? Think Benavidez stops Morrell?
Yeah, I think Morrell starts off pretty good boxing. I think the first 3-4 rounds will be good for him, but after the 5th round, in between the 5th round and after, the pressure is set in, and Benavidez will be combination punching and outworking him and possibly slow him down in the 8th and stop him in the 9th.
Now, moving on, I saw Shakur Stevenson at Boots fight. He was there. He mentioned that his hand is getting better and that he's looking to move forward and possibly fight Zapeda. Yeah. Zapeda has some work to do, but that fight is on the menu for Shakur if Zapeda is able to take care of his fight he has coming up. against Tevin Farmer. Tevin Farmer's fighting Zapeda, right?
Right.
So first I want to give Tev some shine. What can Tev do to offset that pressure that Zapeda puts on?
All Tev has to do is be Tev and not let Zapeda pick up his timing.
Yeah.
That's the only way Zapeda can really get to you and hurt you if you let him pick up your timing. He's a good fighter and a great pressure fighter, but you have to sit there for him to do his thing. You know what I mean? If you make him think a little bit, box around him, use your jab, take your time, pace yourself, I think Tev can get the win. But Zapeda is just being looked at as one of those next guys because of how tough he is, how explosive he is. But again, he can only be explosive if you sit there in front of him. Yeah. I think it's a great fight. To me, it's a 50-50 fight. A lot of people seem to think that Zapeda will run over Tev. I'm not too sure about that, but, we'll see.
Yeah, I know Tev is getting a little older in boxing. I should know, because you can get old in boxing sometimes quick.
For sure.
A lot of miles. But if you look at the skills, like Tev's abilities, Zapeda really don't, a lot of the movements and angles that Tev used, Zapeda really just seems to me like he'll come forward a lot.
Yeah.
So if Tev can use the angles, I don't know if Tev may have the power to keep him off of him, but we'll see what happens in regards to that. Now, like I said, Zapeda, if he can take care of Tevin Farmer, he would get that fight. But another interesting thing would be if Tev was able to pull off the victory and then get the Shakur fight.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
That'd be an interesting fight because both of them are skilled fighters. But who wins that fight? If it was Shakur and Tev got that fight, what can Dev do in that? I'm sorry, Tevin. I'm sorry. What can Tevin Farmer do if he was able to get that fight with Shakur? If he was able to pull off the upset?
Tev would have to be super awkward for Shakur. It's tough to do, like you said, at the age. What happens to the body is the body slow down. You know what I mean? Just naturally. Yeah. He has that style to give Shakur trouble, but Shakur is so technical, so precise. That's what makes it hard for the other guys. Yeah. I mean, even though a lot of people say Shakur not a big puncher, it's hard for those guys to get through to him simply because he's very accurate. You know what I mean? He touches you in spots that, you didn't even think he can get to. So Tev would have to be, very awkward and active. At the same time, Shakur would have to be just sharp, taking his time. High IQ. Tevin's style is not disciplined all the way. You know what I mean? Some of the things he does are things that just happen. Like, he didn't mean to do that. It just happened. But he understands that. But if he can do a lot of it, he can make it difficult for Shakur. But if not, then Shakur will pick him apart.
So Zapeda, Shakur. Zapeda's gonna come forward, pressure Shakur a lot.
Yeah.
Zapeda does have a little bit of pop with his punches. He can punch.
Right.
What does Shakur do to offset?
I think just a simple jab. I know it sounds simple, and I'm making it sound easy, but I think if you put a jab on Zapeda from the southpaw stance, Shakur got pretty good height. He's not tall, but I'm saying he got a good height. Got good long arms. Very sharp and precise, like I said. Just a good jab, a tame Zapeda, believe it or not, if you can keep it up consistently throughout the fight.
So yeah, man, now I was in boxing right now. We know boxing is real political. We have champions with PBC, champions with Top Rank, champions with Matchroom, so forth and so on. Another fight that I think Boots probably could get would be Conor Benn because Conor Benn just came back off the suspension. So we don't know if they may want to throw Conor Benn in there right away. Yeah. But that's a fight where though Boots ain't got to really move up right away. That's a big money fight.
Right.
If he does it here. But what I want to get to is that I'm noticing PBC and Matchroom, they a lot of champions that's with PBC. I think Barros is with PBC. Right. They don't want to do something. They don't want to do business with each other. Like that's what it seems like to me. Like they trying to hold on to those belts. For belts. Sure. Now. Why is boxing that way? Why is it like whereas though people are so want to hold my champions over here and let my champions fight this champion over here? Why is it that way?
I mean, whoever has the real estate calls the shots. It's that simple. You don't have any say so if you don't have any champions. So I think that's what that is about.
And they don't want to lose them straps. And once they lose them straps, they got to build. Basically, like starting over.
You got to start over.
So it's a race. It's a race to the belts. And then it's like, keep away. I'm keep mine over here. Even though the fans want to see certain fights, they're probably not going to happen because things like that, where people want to keep the belts in the house.
Because, I mean, if you got a champion, you got a little bit of leverage. But then if you got a popular champion, like, now you're really calling the shots. You know what I mean? That's like, so it's like the thing with Tank. Everybody know you fight Tank, you're going to make some good money. And the recognition behind it is going to be crazy if you put on a good performance. You don't even always got to beat Tank. If you could just take him the distance, people will look at you different.
And you'll get a check. Again, you'll be able to get a good fight.
So the business side, they play off that.
Now, another thing before I let you go, G, I know you're busy, man. Lomachenko, this is the fight I was thinking about. Lomachenko is top ranked. Keyshawn just won.
Right.
That could be a good fight. That could be a fight.
It's a great
can
fight.
Happen. You know what I'm saying? Who wins that fight?
I think Lomachenko is just slowing down. He's at that point where he can put on a show, but if the tricks he's used to using is not working, it's like it's like I tried, y'all. You know what I mean? Getting older, and people take me wrong when I say this because he's not that old. The thing is, though, he's a smaller model car that's been ran a whole lot of miles. You know what I mean? It's time to tune him up. I mean, take him back, tune him up, or either just put him in the garage. You know what I mean? He got to fall back. And he knows it, too. He's been through some tough rumbles. He's been through a lot of amateur fights. He really just want to take a break. I think he really turned off by boxing and the way it's being ran right now. I mean, he is Lomachenko, and he does love the attention, but at the same time, I don't think he want no trouble. So I think Keyshawn will edge him in the decision.
So before I let you go, just give me your top 5 pound for pound right now.
Right now?
Top 5.
It's going to be tough. I mean,
no order, just top 5. He would say this is the top 5 right
Arthur
now.
Benavidez.
Yes.
In your way. Bud Crawford. Usyk. And number 1, it's a tough one. I know it's somebody, but number 1, I'll probably have to, I don't know, the number 1 spot, tough. I mean, it's not in any order, but that last one, the last pick, I'll probably say Ben Rodriguez. Because he's been beating them little dudes up.
Yeah. He had a good
and he fought some legends already.
Yeah, he had a good showing too as well. Oh, listen, one more thing, man. I got a guy, man, one of my close friends, man. He always talk about you, watch the interview. Me and him was talking, right? He told me to ask you this question. He said, ask G. Hackett who would win between 2 fighters. He said Floyd at 130 versus Shakur. And then he said Floyd at 130 versus Lomachenko. He told me to ask you that. He told me, he texted me, he said, ask
I think Floyd would beat Shakur at 130 because of activity. He's a lot more active. Floyd went to the body a whole lot. Lomachenko, I think, would give him a little more trouble because of the southpaw stance, sneaky puncher, good footwork. But Floyd just is, what Floyd has shown me, even through all the errors, he's a great decision maker. He knows when to adjust and what to do to adjust. A lot of people tried to copy that, but it's different because they saying to themselves, this is what Floyd would do. Floyd is saying, no, this is what I have to do right now. You know what I mean? I've seen him make great decisions, and he has great timing, and you could tell he really studied boxing. So I think Floyd will beat both of them, for real.
There you have it, Rock. Now you got your answer, man. So now, when you watch this interview, you'll see I took your question and passed it on to Greg, and he answered it for you. So thanks, G, man. I appreciate you for coming through.
Appreciate you.
We'll do more.
Take Care LLC. We give you an abundance of what you need. We know what you need. We can literally read your mind. Look at me. I'm staring right into your soul. We're gonna give you an abundance of it. Make Care LLC has been rated #1 in Pennsylvania for home care agency since 2020. They got the best pay, the best care, medical, dental, 401k. If you're located in Philadelphia County, Bucks County, Chester County, or Montgomery County, call today at
215-644-8341.
Oh, hello, is this Care? I just called the number that was here on the screen. This is crazy.